If you or a loved one experience immediate crisis, please dial 988 to access the National Crisis Hotline. If you are in need of more information, support, or want to learn more, you can reach us via email thriveca@coreresponse.org or find us on Instagram at mindyourmind_Cal.
Hi, we are YAB, and this is our episode on eating disorders and body image.
What the YAB is stands for Youth Advisory Board, and we're a group of, I think it was 13 teenagers from LA, and we kind of just looked to start the conversation around mental health and destigmatize mental health in general, stuff like that. I'm Melanie.
I'm Livia.
And I'm Pasha.
Today we're going to give you guys an overview about eating disorders and body image and how it presents itself among people of our age and so on. You can follow us on Instagram at mindyourmind_Cal.
So what do you guys think are some common issues or causes of maybe body images or eating disorders?
I think eating disorders can sometimes stem from body image issues. The way that I've seen it present itself, around me, is issues with not liking the way you look and feeling like you need to match what society and social media deems a attractive or pretty or perfect body, kind of can cause you to have issues with your body image and not liking the way you look, and therefore feeling like you need to do something about it. What about you guys?
I would agree. I would also think that there's a lot of outside factors that affect people our age. I feel like a common one is social media. I feel like I constantly am seeing just people who do not have good relationships with food. They're obsessed with being a certain weight, having a certain amount of muscle, and restricting their diet, promoting their lifestyle to youth and teenagers, which I think is totally absurd and super harmful, because it's not what teenagers are. They have growing bodies. They shouldn't be restricting what they're putting into their body, and they should be focus on nutrients and fueling their body correctly instead of obtaining a certain build.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that with the normalization of kids using social media at really early ages, makes them exposed to standards that social media has, and they it can cause people to not think of food as as you said, fuel, but as a tool.
I know what you mean.
How have you guys seen body image issues in real life, other than social media?
I would say just diet norms within my family or friends, and just an obsession with constantly needing to lose weight and restrict what you're eating. Have you seen anything?
Yeah, personally, I think social media, influencing body image, eating disorders, that kind of thing, the way you view your body and your relationship with food is talked about a lot in society, and it can be a really big factor. And I haven't personally experienced these things myself, but I've heard about, pressure put on you from family to look a certain way, to be a certain weight, or if you're on a sports team. So I think there can be also a lot of factors besides social media, even though social media is a really big factor, there are also some other things that people don't talk as much about.
Yeah, I definitely think that in real life, body image issues, it is easy to see, in people around you. I think what you said about your family, diet, the diet culture around it. Yeah, I relate to that definitely. like my mom and like everybody, not everybody, but like I have seen it in real life, like in my family as well, like people around me. It's like I've seen so much like in everyday life, like even when I go to the store, like to the grocery store, like you'll see like teas that like are supposed to help you like lose weight like super rapidly. They're like, oh, the weight just falls off, like, or like medicines, like I guess like pills and stuff. Like I've seen ads that are like, you can lose weight by using this pill. Like just trust us. Like it isn't unhealthy. Like, but it's like, yeah, that's like the way I've seen it.
Yeah. My mom like grew up like always on like a different diet, and she was very like open about it, which I think was pretty wrong because I feel like a lot of the things that she would talk about with like carbs and like fats and like unhealthy foods and unhealthy like labeling foods as healthy and unhealthy has really been like ingrained in my mind. And I've like learned to like ignore it and not let it affect me, but I feel like it's like always something that would just be like kind of ingrained in my mind. Or like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it would just be like something that like I think of when I think of food, and I feel like it's like pretty bad.
Yeah, I feel that so much. Like, and it can like I think family can be really like toxic when it comes to like body image, because it's like sometimes I think people will like say it out loud when they notice that you're like that somebody is losing or gaining weight, and they say it like maybe they don't realize that it doesn't help. Yeah. Like they say that it comes from like a place of like I guess love, or like just like observing someone and like there's nothing wrong with it, but like pointing out somebody's like I guess differences or changes in their body can actually be like pretty harmful. Like I've had experiences with that, like over the years, like I've gained and like lost like weight like a few times, like it's like just like fluctuating, you know? Yeah. And like I've heard family members talking about it, and it's like that doesn't help me, you know? Like
I think we were talking about this earlier, I think, that it like can be really difficult for like teenagers, especially like because your weight does fluctuate as you're like transitioning from like a kid to an adult. So it's not really normalized, and it's not something that like everyone talks about. Yeah. So that can be really hard. Especially
during like puberty, like just people will like gain a lot of weight, and I feel like it's all that like people around them will talk about, and I just think it's so messed up. Because I feel like especially when you're in that age group, you're just so vulnerable and you're like pretty sensitive because like just so much is going on in your life. And I feel like it's like the last thing you want to hear is how much your body is changing, and like people just constantly telling you about it.
Yeah. I think a big thing in my community is like mentioning it to people, like rewarding them with like positive like words when they lose weight. And it can feel like a pattern of like just like it can feel rewarding when people around you are like pointing out that you like, I don't know how to say it, but it can be like positive reinforcement when people around you notice that like you lose weight, and then like maybe mention it to you or mention it to your family or people around you. And I think that's like that can be a really like dangerous pattern to go down if you start to seek that like rewarding feeling. Yeah.
Like needing validation on your own looks. Yeah. I feel like that can be really harmful.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about how it could kind of become a cycle of like needing that validation. So it could help you could make you kind of go backwards in a way.
Yeah, definitely. Who do you think that like body image issues or eating disorders mainly like affect?
I would say that they affect everyone of like all ages and all genders.
Yeah, I think it's talked a lot about probably for maybe teenage girls, young women, but it can really affect everyone. It probably is really common in that like group, but it can be for everyone. And I think we kind of only represent part of a spectrum of people who suffer from this. So it's important to keep in mind that like even though the media might not always represent that,
like all forms of like inclusivity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that it's definitely like an issue that's like always been like very like prevalent in women, like of all ages. Like it can be like when you're young, like when you're going through puberty, like even like when women, like even older women who feel like they just need to keep their body like to what it was. Like I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah, I do think that it like also affects men a lot, like especially nowadays with like gym culture. Yeah. Yeah, I think that it does like affect everybody today.
Okay. So we talked a little bit about like external pressures which could kind of cause these issues. What was that kind of like for you guys? Like, do you want to speak to your own experiences?
I would say like during COVID, there was a lot of like diet culture on TikTok and social media, and like an obsession with like losing weight and like having a glow up over quarantine. And I feel like for me, it made me like become insecure about my body, because I was like going through puberty then. I was like 13ish, and I was seeing my whole social media was just filled about like losing weight and like these really skinny girls, and like them talking about how they like went on these different diets and did all these like crazy workouts to achieve it. And it just made me like very conscious about like what I was eating and what I was like doing exercise wise, that led to like a lot of insecurity. And it took a long time for me to like get out of that cycle, and it took me to like a very low point. But through like appreciation for what my like body does for myself, and knowing that I like need food to survive, and then I need to like be properly nourished to have like a healthy body and live a long life, I like was able to like get myself out of that hole and like realize that like those social media posts and those like dietal expectations are just like bogus. How have you guys like dealt with it?
I think I've started like learning healthier ways to like deal with like those types of issues like recently. I think it started for me like pretty early on with like just body development, like puberty, I think. And then like people commenting on how my body was changing, as I mentioned before, and just me being like really hyper conscious of how my body looked and how people were perceiving me like based on my body. And yeah, I think it started pretty early on, and like from there my relationship with food has definitely taken like turns. And I would say that I'm a person who like struggled with like unhealthy eating like habits, but something that has really helped me like deal with stuff like that, deal with like my relationship with food, is like being involved in sports, which not really too much sports, but like starting to like run, because I'll say like 9 months ago I started like running pretty constantly, and so I started learning about like what types of foods help like fuel me better. So I've started seeing food as like fuel, and how like food can help me like get my energy up. And I really like see food as like energy, and not as something that like compromises my body. Like, because it doesn't compromise my body. It helps me like be better. It helps me like run better. It helps me like it just helps me be better. Like, and like I've seen so many like people on social media and like people saying like, oh, I'm on like an all carb diet, and like I started like, but once I started like learning from like, I was running with the club that was called SRLA, and our mentor was really helpful when it came to like not what we should eat, because obviously she wouldn't like restrict our food or anything, but she'd be like, okay, these are the types of foods that will help you before a race, so you can be really like well energized. And I was like, all these foods have so many carbs in them. Like I was told that all of this was bad before. Like, why? Like, why was I told that all of this was unhealthy? Like, this is what is helping my body. Why was I told differently before? You know what I mean? What about you guys?
Yeah, I've been able to like redefine my relationship with food through like learning about how different foods like help fuel your body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely same. I think like physical activity like and has really helped me. Like because I see food because I see food as something that I need, not something that like I don't see food as like a I said it before, as like a compromise or like something that like I don't know how to say this sentence. I no longer see food as like something that compromises my appearance. I see it as something that like helps me. I think we've talked a lot about ways in which body image relates to like weight and stuff like that. But are there any other ways you guys want to talk about that body image issues like show up in your life?
Yeah, definitely. I think weight is a big one for a lot of people, but there are also ways that aren't talked about as much. Like, personally, I struggle a lot with how my skin looks because I have pretty bad acne, and I'm just constantly worried about how people will like see me if they'll just because I feel like that's one of the things you notice. At least that's the thing I notice immediately about my face is my acne, and I just feel like that's what everyone sees, and I'm worried about how they'll perceive it, and I think that's not talked about as much. And also stuff like hair texture, like height, like those are things that I kind of struggle with.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to like the acne part.
Yeah,
like,
so can I.
I think you don't see acne that much, and maybe the part of it is like makeup. Part of it is because some people just like have really good skin, but I feel like you don't see it as much represented like in the media or in general.
Yeah, definitely. Me too. Like social media, like you see people with super glossy skin and like super smooth, and it can feel like, what do I need to do to make my skin look like that? But it's like, I have extremely textured skin, and before I started going on like tretinoin, well, I was not going on tretinoin, but before I started using, before I like went on tretinoin, or before I started using tretinoin cream, like my acne was really, really bad, and that like kind of helps me regulate it, and yeah, my acne was super, super bad. I don't think you guys ever like saw like me before like the tretinoin cream, but my acne was really bad, and like it was just always like that. Like during COVID, like I wore my mask 24/7 because like not even at school when I was like eating did I fully take it off because my acne was really bad. I think that's a really big one.
Yeah, I've definitely had like the thought about the mask too. Like it might just be better if I wore the mask all the time. Like
I feel like dealing with acne, I feel like the most important thing to realize is like it is normal and it's not going to be like permanent, I would say. And that like it does take time for it to fully heal, but it will like eventually happen. And that like everyone goes through like something, I feel like, with their body image. And I feel like acne is like really normal, and it's like it's not something to be like embarrassed about because it's like it's not your fault. There's most of the time there's not much you can do about it. And I feel like if you're someone that judges someone for having acne, you're just like a horrible person. Because it's like most like no one can do anything about it.
yeah, and I think I don't know. I've kind of heard some stuff recently about like, oh, like you shouldn't eat like that sugar, or like if I'm about to eat something, they're like, you know, you have acne, like, and like diet can definitely be like a big part in causing that, but also like I've struggled with this since like 6th grade, and my diet has not, like my diet has like changed like over the years and all that. Like I don't think it's my diet that's causing this. I think it's just puberty, I guess. But also, I think you're right. It is definitely like a normal thing. It's just hard for me to kind of realize that because I don't see it very much in the people around me.
Yeah, there is that really like huge agenda that like that just fixing your diet will fix your acne, but that's just not true.
Yeah. So do you guys want to transition into talking more about like eating disorders specifically, maybe some different kinds of eating disorders and some causes of it?
Yeah. I would say that like a lot of eating disorders stem from like a need for control or a need or like a desire for like perfection in life. And I feel like a lot of time it does correlate with like body image, but it's not just like, oh, I want to like lose weight. It's like there's a bunch of stuff going on in my life that I can't control. And the one thing that I can control is my body. And I can control the food that I put inside my body. And I feel like a lot of times it just leads to like an obsession with like eating the least amount of food possible, eating the healthiest food possible, and like obtaining a really like slim figure.
What are like some types of eating disorders that you guys have heard of?
I've heard of like anorexia nervosa, which is an eating disorder where you basically like restrict the amount of food that you put into your body. And it comes a lot with like obsession with like eating healthy food, eating only low calorie food, skipping a bunch of meals, and then like being obsessed with like exercise maybe.
Yeah. I actually had a friend who had anorexia, and yeah, I noticed that she was definitely like, she would eat fruit like instead of lunch, and she was very focused on like exercise and stuff. So I definitely like, those are very big symptoms. And then I've also heard of like bulimia, I think it's called, where you like throw up after you eat. Mm-hmm. You force yourself to.
Yeah, I've heard of those too. And I don't know if this counts, but like that I've heard like binge eating disorder.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people that like have struggled with like anorexia can sometimes like develop binge eating. Yeah. Because for binge eating, a lot of the time it's like you eat because like it's kind of like what you need for some people. Sometimes it's like binge eating disorder can like stem from like restriction and not eating enough food, and your body like needs nutrients, and it leads to you being able like not being able to like control your eating in periods.
Like, it can feel like you're like relapsing on food. Yeah. Like you're going into like a hole of like eating so much, and then you're like, no, like I need to stop.
And it can be like a cycle for people, like terms of like not term.
Yeah, and it could be a cycle.
Yeah, like restriction and then binge eating.
Totally. It's like everything is interconnected, and it can all lead back to like just repeating everything over and over. A cycle, like you guys said.
Yeah. For like binge eating disorder, I've heard that like for a lot of people, it can like stem from like traumatic events in their life or just like stress. And they use like food as kind of like a way to fill the void. But then it's like a lot of people like eat their feelings, but for binge eating disorder, it's a lot more than just like eating your feelings. It's like you can't stop eating in times of like emotional states, and you kind of use like food as a way to like get over that, and like you end up focusing on like the guilt of eating all the food instead of what's actually going on.
Yeah, I think food can be like a distraction sometimes too. Yeah, like a hobby almost, but it's like that's so unhealthy.
Do you guys want to talk like really quickly about how you could like maybe some like symptoms that like earlier we talked about how like if someone has bulimia, like they might be like spending a lot of time in the bathroom like after meals, or I forget the other thing you said. Do you want to touch on that, or you think?
Yeah. Okay. I feel like for bulimia also like abusing laxatives and like having like a bunch of laxatives around could be a sign of bulimia. And then for like anorexia, I would say like rapid weight loss and maybe like your hair is falling out, like you don't have a lot of light in your skin, you have really low energy, you just like aren't like your normal self, I would say, and you just like are very down and you're very like feel fearful around food, I think is a big one. And you like avoid events that like revolve around food, I would say are pretty big symptoms of it.
Yeah. I also want to like point out that I haven't done too much like educating on like specific eating disorders, but I know that people tend to use people can use drugs to like, I don't know if that is like, those can be classified as like an eating disorder, but like
a way to like suppress appetite.
Yeah. Like nicotine or like even other drugs to just like focus on their need, like their, I don't know if I'd call it addiction, but maybe like their addiction to like some substance to like keep their body from needing food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that these issues are really like prevalent and very noticeable in like people of our age and like in people around us, like our friends and family and stuff. I talked about like how I've been able to view food differently through like my experiences with running and like seeing food as like helping my body function and helping me function as a person. So yeah, what are some ways in which you guys think that we can aid that, like our experiences with those issues?
I would say for like serious issues like diagnosed eating disorders, like seeking treatment could be really helpful. There's a organization called NEDA. It's like National Eating Disorder Organization. They have a great website and like social media pages. They have a bunch of like resources for depending on like where you live and like what you need help with specifically. And then there's a great company called Montanito Facilities, and they have like residential and outpatient programs all across the United States. But I feel like not everyone needs those. Do you have any ideas for people that like have less extreme problems and like a diagnosed eating disorder?
Yeah, maybe like if there are people or like factors like social media or like maybe I don't know, people who make you feel like feel a certain way, you could try to distance yourself, like kind of take a social media break. And it would probably not be easy, but it might help you in the long run with getting away from like those influences.
I agree. Also, if you don't want to do like a full-on break and just like block people, report videos, I think is super good.
Yeah. And then I agree with like what you were talking about, like with physical activity and how they can change, make you view food as like more of a as fuel.
I think the social media is a big one.
Yeah. I feel like changing your algorithm could be is like a really good thing to do for that.
It's been nice to like talk to you guys about like your experiences and mine as well. I think that we can relate in a lot of areas, and I think that it's really helpful to see how like our experiences and different types of issues and habits are like interconnected and how they relate to each other. So yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you. This is a great
Thank you.
conversation.